Good evening, everyone. I hope you can see me and hear me. Let me just confirm that with my colleague Rick, who is also here. Good evening, Rick. Can you hear me and see me?
Good evening. Let me turn on my camera. Yes, I can see and hear you perfectly.
Thank you.
Can you see me as well?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Before we started, Rick, thanks for being here and for helping me out today. Before we start in this section, will be recorded and shared with you. This presentation will be shared with you. And please keep your questions for the end. We're going to answer all of them. If you like, you can pop up them in the chat or in the Q&A. Feel free to do that. So in the meantime, my colleague Rick will answer a few questions. And if we have more, by the end, we will answer them as well. And if during the presentation you have questions, just pop them in the Q&A or in the chat, as I said before. So let's start it.
Before we start, Mustafa can hear us. Can someone else confirm in the chat if they can hear us?
Oh yeah, that would be great. If you can just confirm in the chat, that would be good for us.
Then Mustafa, maybe check out your settings. I'll leave it up to you. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat.
There you go. So I'm Diovana. I am an expat buying manager and also expat rental manager. I'm from Brazil, been in the Netherlands for the past almost 14 years now. I have two kids, a girl and a boy. Not always proud though. I rented a place, well, several before I bought. I actually bought my first property only in 2015. 14 and then we moved in 15 because I had to renovate everything. So the first property, bought the second one, and that's how I ended up in this business, doing that, helping out expats, because I am one as well, of course, and been where you are probably. So to start a little bit of the presentation, I would like to get to know you guys a little bit. So we have a poll where you can answer a few questions. It takes only a few seconds, so I'll give you like 30 seconds to answer. There you go. I hope you can all see it. There are a few questions: how you find us, how did you find out about the webinar, and those kind of things. So please, if you be able to fill those in for us, then we know how we can help you better and get to know you a little bit. Ranks are too high. We're going to talk about that. I'd like to sadly get that. Yes. Build up equity. Agree. Paying rent is not really a good thing, isn't it? Perfect. Okay, thank you so much. I will run this poll and then we're going to have another one during the presentation. Let me continue. Let me close here. So give me a second just to be able to close this. Oh, there you go. Oh, the presentation. Can you see again? Yes, you can. Oh, not anymore. Wait a second. Then I can close it. There you go. No, it doesn't close. There, give me 1 second. Can you still see the poll, Rick?
Yeah, you ended the poll and
I'm trying to end it. It's not really, I can't end it for some reason.
And we see your entire screen. So
yeah. No. Well, let me wait a second. I will stop sharing for 1 second and come back to the presentation. Okay. Okay, I will share again, and then it's then we can go through it. Yes.
Yes. Perfect.
Good. That's good now. So let's talk just a little bit about the content, what we're going to talk today, a little bit of introduction about the company, of course, some market info. There are a few information that is going to be good if you're thinking about buying a house and do the transfer date next year, or maybe just because you want to prepare for it. So market drivers, of course, that's very important. What are the savings you need to help to be able to buy a house in the Netherlands, and why do you need those savings? And of course, we're going to share a little tips that can make your offer the winning one when you buy a house. We're also going to show you a timeline. I think it's very important to understand how long is the process and how long can you take and what are the steps to be able to buy the house. So that would be nice to recognize it as well. And when you can see it, I think you have a clear idea about the process. Greatness is achieved in the agents of others. So a little bit of introduction about Expat Housing Network. We are a company full of expats. We also have Dutch people, but they all have lived abroad. So we know that we all know what it looks like to live in a new country and have get the new experience and go through all the process, different culture, different language. So that's, I believe, it's the most valuable thing in our company, that we can actually understand what you guys go through. A brief introduction. As I said before, we are all expats. We're not traditional real estate agents, which means that we don't have house for sale. We help you to buy a house or renting a house, but we don't have the house for it. We charge a fixed fee, so it doesn't matter how much you're going to pay for the house. If it's 300K or if it's 3 million, the fee is the same for everyone. We know what it's like to settle in a new country. As I said, we all have been abroad, living in different countries. What is our value? I do believe that I think the more important one for me is when we can be in the same place and understand the situation you're going through. I think it's very important. I think we care a lot about that as well. The selling agents do take offers from our company more seriously. They do like to know that we have done our background check, that we have prepare everything to send a very official, efficient offer, and that nothing gonna go wrong in the process. We can sometimes book viewings when it's no longer possible. That's true. A lot of agencies, they do save spots for agents. So sometimes actually quite a lot. You're not able to book a viewing anymore, but if we call, they have spots left that we can book it for you. We do support reviewing all the Dutch legal and property documents. Although I'm from Brazil, I do speak Dutch. I learned the language, so don't give up. If I did it, you can do it for sure. But we do have colleagues, as you saw, Rick is from the Netherlands, for example, and he go through the process as well. With all the documents, we always have double checked everything, and we're able to tell you what you're going to sign for the small lines and everything. We help define market value through the market data. That's the second one that it's the most important for me. I'm going to explain about that in the further in the presentation about the market value and not about the funda, the value that you see on funda, the funda value. We will inform you about the rules and regulations. That's something also very important when you buy a house, especially for us expats that, well, in my case, I've been here for almost 14 years, so I guess I'm staying for a long time already, but maybe you're new to the country or just for a few years and you're not sure how long you're going to stay. Maybe you're only here for 5 years or so. So it's you need to get informed about regulations such as renting or when can you sell the property, if you can or cannot rent a room, if you can rent the property or not. So those are the kind of regulations you need to be aware when you buy a house. And if you are thinking about the future or you're not staying here for such a long time as I am, for example. We make sure you don't make the same mistakes we made. Yeah, of course, because we've been there and not all of us had someone to help and we had to go to by ourselves. So I think experience is the thing that our company really can show in a lot of good ways and prove that we can help you. Where in the process are you? So let me try the poll again. I hope this time it works. Where are you in the process? Buying process. Here we go. I'm gonna launch, so then we know where are you in the process and how can we know if you are already doing a viewing, if you already buying bought something, or maybe you are thinking about it. So it's nice for us to know. I will give you a few more seconds and then we're going to go further. One thing about the presentation, as I said, you're going to receive this, and please feel free to ask your questions now, and then we're going to answer them all at the end. But if during the week or something after you receive the presentation, you forgot about something, you will also have my email, the company's email at the end of the presentation. Please feel free to drop me an email. I don't mind to answer more questions. We don't charge for that. So if you forgot something today, feel free to ask later. I think I'm going to go through because I see that everybody is done. So I guess Yes, thank you so much for that. So now it works. That's good. Let's see. Here we go. Market info. We have some numbers from the values of the property. Oh, let me come back to that one. That is very interesting regarding last year. So still the average price is quite high. It's still 425 in the Q3. So it's still a very high value. So just so you see how crazy the market went for the past few years. I think if you are here for more than 2 years, you probably notice how things went up, and it's still a little bit going up, although we see more stability. This is the price for the Eindhoven area, the average purchase price in the Q3 compared to last year. You can see 457. It was a few less households than last year. Of course, we can imagine for what it's happening in the world, things have changed. Although sales time is still a bit more or less the same. Average price 3,604, which is quite expensive for the Eindhoven area, but we all know why. Let me show you in some market drivers that is are very important. What caused the second, let me move this one. What caused the price to increase? Well, I would say fiscal benefits. You do have a lot of benefits, tax exemption, for example. We're going to talk about a little bit further. The prices are going, the value is going up for tax exemption, which might be very interesting for people that are looking for a house that is a bit more expensive. Interest rebate, you always get an interest rebate in the Netherlands. Feel free to talk to your mortgage advisor about that. No capital gains, tax-free parent donation, and that will end this year in December, if I'm not mistaken. It's the last month for you to not pay taxes on that. Low interest rates, I know, and high interest rate, high rents. The rent is still very high and is going up in a lot of cities. They are allowed to, and next year they are already foreseeing that it will become even higher. So what I'm talking about low interest rates is that if we compare the interest rates from like 10 years ago, the interest rates that we have now are still quite low compared to that. They were about, I believe, 7.5%, 8%, which was a big difference. So that's why interest rates are still low compared to that. Of course, we can't compare the interest rates that it was at the beginning of the year, for example, or last year there was around 1.92%. That was very low, and that's something we're going to discuss a little bit further. And but yeah, just that's our what we believe about. That's why we put the low interest rates, and that's why I'd like to explain to you. Let's go further. Those are the rules that you have to be aware when you're buying a house. One important one that I find that's very good for everyone, if you're buying a house that is you can buy with a mortgage called NHG, National Mortgage Guarantee. They have special interest rates that are a bit more cheaper than the normal ones, and you do have more advantage regarding there. For example, if you're not able to work anymore, so the NHG will cover your mortgage, those kind of advantage. So that's, and now the price is 355. You can buy a house up to 355,000, and then you can use this kind of mortgage. And from January next year, it will go to up to 405, which is a big jump, because it went from 325 to 355, and now it's going to 60,000 euros more just in 2 years. So which is a very big jump, which might be very interesting when you buy with a special mortgage. The self-occupancy obligation, this is something when you are interested in rent your house. If you want to buy a house and you want to rent it out, please look it up at this rule. It's not that easy anymore. You see the click here. If you pick that, there's a link explaining everything. It does have to be with your WOZ value. I want to explain the WOZ value very quickly. The WOZ value, it's not the market value. It's not the value of your property. It's the value given by the municipality to charge you taxes. There's nothing to do with the market, nothing to do with your property. It's a value that they give per neighborhood, per postcode, to charge you the taxes that you have to pay to the city hall, the house taxes, the garbage taxes, those kind of taxes. And normally they are a bit lower, well, depends on the neighborhood, they are lower than the market value. It depends on how much the value of the houses were sold in your neighborhood. I can give you my example. I live in a house that it's not so cheap, but it's not so expensive. But the houses that are, I believe, 200 meters from my house, there's one or two houses that cost more than €1 million. Because of that, my WOZ is quite high, because it's a kind of, they kind of do a check in all the prices around the neighborhood and for how much for they're sold. And that's how they put a WOZ, a value on the property. And that's how they charge you the taxes. But there's nothing to do with your market value, with the house market value. So just be aware of that. But that law is very important to know if you are planning to buy a house to rent it out, or maybe rent it out in the future, so that you need to be aware of that. Limit transfer tax, that's also a very, very good thing. If you are up to 35 years old, you never bought a house in the Netherlands, if you have a transfer date for this year, you can only buy a house up to 400K, and then you don't have to pay 2% transfer taxes. But if you are, your transfer date, if you already bought a house, for example, or if you're looking for a house and the transfer date is next year from January on, you can buy a house up to 440, and you still have the 2% transfer taxes that you don't have to pay free. Let's say you don't have to pay the 2% transfer taxes. I will explain a little bit further so you understand when we talk about the tax exemption. When you buy a house in the Netherlands, and if someone already lived in the house before you, or it was someone already registered in the house, you do have to pay 2% transfer tax to the government. If it's a new build, nobody ever lived there before, you don't have to pay that. Doesn't matter how old you are, or doesn't matter the price. But if it's a house that someone already lived there, you do have to pay. But if you're up to 35 years old, you never bought a house in the Netherlands, and the house has a price into 31st of January up to 400, you don't pay the 2%. And from January on, it's up to 440. So then you have the tax exemption. You can also read it a little bit more in the link. What you do need in savings before you start. So that's something that we are getting that point of the 2% transfer tax, that you can understand a little bit better, and how much you can have as a mortgage in the Netherlands, and how much you need in savings to be able to buy a house. So as you can see here, transfer taxes, we just talked about it. So one thing I want to tell you is this: keep in mind, if you want to make a calculation, a quick one, right? If you want to make a quick calculation about how much you need as in cash to be able to buy a house. So one thing you need to know, the banks in the Netherlands, they do finance the property. In the property only. They only finance the value that is in the evaluation report. So you need an appraiser. You see that appraiser, it costs between 650 and 800 euros to make this valuation report. It's mandatory for you to have it for the bank. The bank, if you have the budget, of course, will give you the amount that the appraisers put in the report. And then further in the presentation, I'm going to explain a little bit about the market value and funda value, and then you're going to understand the appraiser evaluation, the evaluation report made by the appraiser. So let's say you bought a house for 300K, and the evaluator did make a valuation report for 300K. So how much do I need in savings? So the bank will only finance the house. They don't finance the process of buying your house, which means that they don't finance the notary, the mortgage deed and transfer deed. They don't finance your mortgage advisor or the bank. Be aware, the bank also charges you to have a mortgage. So it's not because you have an ABN bank account, for example, that they're going to make the mortgage process for you for free. They do charge, I believe, it's like 1,800 euros to do so. The mortgage advisors can be a little bit more expensive, but they do give you more overviews for other banks, so you can choose. Typical real estate will charge a percentage to help you buy the house. As we said before, we do charge a fixed fee. Appraisal, it's mandatory. Technical inspector, we're going to talk further. You might need it or not. Interpreter, if you don't speak fluently Dutch, it's not just a little bit, it's not understanding. It has to be fluent. You do need an interpreter. That's mandatory. One tip for you guys here, if you're doing that by yourselves, always choose the English one. It's much cheaper than any other language. I did it with my first house. The Portuguese one, it was unbelievable expensive. So for the second one, we went for the English. Bank guarantee, that's also mandatory in the process. I can explain later what it is. And NHG, if you choose for that mortgage, remember the house is up to 355 this year, next year 405. You do have to pay a fee of 0.6% of the mortgage value. So let's just for you make the quick calculation, we talked about it, 300K, and the bank will finance for you 300K. The process for you to, the savings that you need to be able to finance those 300K will be between 3 to 5% of the purchase price. So if you are up to 35 years old, the house is less, in this case it's less than 400, then you don't have to pay 2% transfer tax. But if you're older than 35, you're gonna have to pay. Then you calculate 5% of 300. If you don't have to pay 2% taxes, you can calculate 3% more and less, because maybe you don't want a technical inspection. Maybe you're not going to use NHG. So that's why we say more and less. You can only know the full amount after you enter the process. So always calculate 3 to 5% of the purchase price. That's how much you need in savings to be able to buy a house in the Netherlands. So 300K. It will be around 15K. Yeah, right? 12, 15K in cash to be able to buy a house. 3 tips to win in the current market: value. So that's the one, market value, the one I was talking about before. So here there is a very good example. This house / apartment, asking price on Funda was 395. And then here you can see, after doing a price research, and that's what we do before we send the offer. And why we do that? Because normally, in a lot of cases, in a lot of cities, and it depends by city, let's say you have a house for sale, you want to sell a house, and you go and talk to an agent, and the agent will put the house on Funda. So which means that you basically can choose the value that you want to sell the house. It doesn't mean that that is the market value. So the bank wants to know the market value. They don't want to know how much it was on Funda. So you see the asking price on Funda, remember, 395. So we do, let's say you become our client, we do a price research, and we see that actually the market value of this house is around 415. So which means that more or less what the amount that the bank will give you as a mortgage, if you have the budget, of course. So the purchase price in this case, and this is an example of overbidding, just for you to understand how the overbidding works and how the market value works. So the purchase price, let's say asking price was 395. We told you that the market value was around 415, but you decided to pay 435 because, I don't know, you just want to pay more and secure the house because you want to buy. So which means that you paid 4K above asking price, which is 10% of the market value, right? The Funda value. But you actually, when you look at this market value, and remember, the bank looks at market value versus purchase price, you actually paid 4.8% on, you overbid only for 8%, because remember, the bank doesn't care about Funda value. When you have the market value, you have to forget about the Funda value completely. So you paid 4.8% of the market value. It might be that you go on Funda, and if you have an agent, and then if you work with us and we do a price research, it might be that we see that the actual price on Funda might be even higher than the market value. And we're going to tell you, look, this house is way too expensive for what it is. The bank is not going to give you 395. The bank only going to give you 380, which means that if you send an offer of 395 and the market value is actually 380, those 15K you're going to have to pay in cash, because the bank will only give you the market value. So here is another example with the same price, just for you to understand. 375, well, a different price, sorry. Market value 415. Purchase price are the same, 435. So this is even a bigger overbidding. Regarding to Funda, is always going to be big, because normally on Funda the prices are low. Remember, although lately I've been seeing the Funda value high in a few cities around here in Eindhoven. Oh, by the way, I didn't say I do live in Eindhoven and the city center, just so you know. Let me see. So here you see again, the difference, it's still for 8% from the purchase price. So just for you to understand how the overbidding and how the market value works. We have cases before in Amsterdam, for example, that we did, the asking price was like 375, and we do a market value research or price research, and we see that the market value was actually like 100K more than they put on Funda. So why do they do that? to have more people looking at the house. The competition is high. A lot of people are desperate to buy. So when you have more people, more chances, more offer, more chances of people going crazy. So that's why it's very important for you to do the market, to have the price research done and know the real value of the property before you send an offer, because you need to understand that the bank's not going to give you. Let's be clear, in this example, it doesn't matter if you have a budget of 1 million, the bank will only give you as a mortgage 415. If you pay 435, you're going to have to pay those 20K in cash by yourself if you want to continue the process. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to buy this house. And winning offer. So offer always a good price. So that's exactly what we were talking about the price research, right? Of course, if you can always overbid, I wouldn't say don't do it, but it's up to you. It's not my money. We always give you the advice, of course. But if you offer, if it's your dream home or whatever, yeah. Make sure that you are covered regarding the mortgage. Don't do anything crazy. It's in one thing, offer a good price. It's not always the high price. Why I'm going to say that? It's because a lot of people write it down in the offer, for example, that they need 100% finance. But let me come back to this. They don't have any idea about market value, and they put that they need 100% finance off the 435. Look, the people who are selling the house, they do know how much is the market value. They do know how much is the house is worth it for sure for you to get the mortgage. So if you send an offer of saying that you're going to need 100% finance on 435, they're never going to sell the house for you, because they know you're not going to be able to finance 100%. You're only going to be able to finance around 450. So they know that the bank will deny a mortgage already. So they are sure about that. So they're going to sell for someone that did offer, for example, I don't know, 400 and needs to that it needs to finance 450, offer 415 and needs to finance 415, or the offer 435 but needs finance 415. So you see the difference. So and in this way, they know that the mortgage will be approved and the process will go smoothly. So just for you to have an idea regarding that, that's why we say not always the high price, because what the seller wants is security, especially in this market now. That's exactly what they want. They need to be sure that they're going to sell the house, that you're going to get the mortgage approved, offer the least amount of hassle. So what is that about it? So I'm sorry, but I have to keep giving you my example. I think it's I can talk more about that. So I feel very secure about it, so I can do that. My house is from 1906. It's a very old house, very, very old. So when I saw the house, I knew that was old and I knew it needed renovation. So what I'm getting in that is that you need a technical inspection to see if the building is on a good condition, right? If there's nothing is wrong. But in this case, in my house, from the photos and from viewing the house, when I came to the viewing, and believe it or not, I did the same viewing as you did. You would do. The house, it looks even worse than looking from. That was terrible, really. So we did have technical inspection. We did have that, yes, but more to know about the big things that need to be done, because I did know that the house needed completely renovation. So that's what what it means. Offer the less amount of hassle. If I have bought this house and said, look, I'm only going to buy this house if you fix the roof or if you fix the bathroom, that would never happen. They would never sell to me, because everybody who came to see the house knew that this house needed a real gigantic renovation. So that's the kind of a hassle that the seller doesn't need to have. For example, offer a personal touch. Again, I'm going to continue with my story, because I bought a house from a family who already had three children, and they were all adults and grandchildren and everything, but they really wanted to sell a house for someone. They wanted to have this feel of selling a house that someone would continue to live, something, whatever. So they needed this personal touch very much. So they needed to know a history behind the people that were selling that were buying the house. And that was important from them. And believe me or not, I had clients before that bought a house for less than the other offers. They offer less. And we just won the house because the sellers thought they were the right people for that house, because they were kind of spiritual things around. And they wanted to make sure that those things would continue, and they wanted to feel that thing. So offer a personal touch, not only regarding that, but telling the seller where you work, those kind of things make them feel more secure regarding the whole process. Due diligence. So what is going to happen? What is going to happen during the process of buying a house? So remember we talked about technical inspection and appraiser, right? So appraiser is the guy that has to come to the house. There's no way, unless you're buying the house completely in cash, you don't need a mortgage whatsoever. Then you don't need a valuation report because the bank won't need it. You're not going to have a finance, so it's just transfer the money, right? But if you are having a mortgage, the bank will need a valuation report. It's mandatory. There's no way you can escape. So an appraiser, it's mandatory to be in the house once you do the whole process of buying. A technical inspector is something you can choose, and that's when an agent, us, will come in handy in this time, because we're going to go through all the documents of the property. If it's an apartment, there is many documents. That's another tip for you guys. Always ask for documents of that property. It's very important to know how old is the roof, how old is the kitchen, those kind of information. If they have leakage, did they fix it? And that will be in the process and the documents. And we are able to go through those documents and tell you our advice. Yes, you should have a technical inspection because this or that. Oh, this house is too new. It's only 10 years. It's still in guarantees. So it's not really necessary. You can maybe do it because, you feel comfortable doing so, but it's not really necessary, those kind of things. So those are the two things that will happen. Remember, appraiser mandatory, and because of that, it is everything that is mortgage related. You get an amount back in your net taxes next year. I think it's around like 38 to 41% that you get back from the amount you paid. So you just have to keep all the receipts and everything. A technical inspector, because it's not mandatory, it is not for your mortgage, it's a choice. You don't get the money back, of course. Do you book them before or after your offer is accepted? I always answer that. So you booked after. That's the first time I don't answer before I ask the question. So you book them after you have an offer accepted. So you send an offer, it gets accepted. First thing you do, book those guys. If the inspector, if it's necessary, but the appraiser for sure. And that's another tip I'm going to give you. Do never sign the purchase agreement without having the appraiser been in the house. You don't need a report, but you do need him there, because then he can confirm already the price. Because let's say everything goes wrong, and remember our fake house of 300, and the guy goes there and said, look, I'm so sorry, Diovana, the house is only worth it 285, which means that you're only going to get a mortgage for 285, remember? So if you sign the purchase agreement and then he only tells that after, 10 days, you're going to have to pay 15K in cash. So that's not really what you want. So book before you sign the purchase agreement. You do have, between the offer accepted and the purchase agreement, you do have about 1.5 weeks for a lot of things happen between this time. So be aware of that. Book those two, do everything that you have to do, make sure you have the correct price, and then move forward to sign the purchase agreement. After you sign the purchase agreement, the purchase agreement is the deal between you and the seller. It's where it's going to be written what you offer in your offer, all the articles. They might add different ones, so pay attention to that. Although it's normal, there's nothing I would say suspicious about contracts in the Netherlands. They're quite easy to understand, and they are 99% of the time. Well, not 90% of the time, but 100% of the time, you're going to get. They are all the same. They add one or two different clauses in the contracts, but they're all the same, literally made by an association and made by the notaries, and nobody can write their own contract. So it makes things very safe to do. So you're going to see the purchase agreement, the agreement between you and the seller, and everything that your financial clause, everything will be there. If you put a financial clause, the technical inspection information will be there, and those kind of things, all the agreement between the two of you. So once you sign the purchase agreement, you still have 3 days, working days, to pull out of the deal without paying any penalty. Of course, the appraisal and the technical inspection, they have been there in the house already, so you do have to pay them. But that means that you don't have to pay the 10% penalty to the seller because you don't want to buy the house anymore. After those 3 days, we call cool-off period, you're going to have to pay 10% penalty to the seller if you just give up the house because you don't like the house anymore. So the only way you can pull out of the deal without paying any penalty is if your financial don't get accepted, if you don't get the mortgage approved by the bank. Otherwise, any other thing, I just don't like the house anymore, it's not the neighborhood that I like it, you cannot. You're going to have to pay it. So that's why it's very important for you that's why you have those 3 days, just to rethink everything. And so never sign that on a Monday or Tuesday. Always sign on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, because Weekends are not going to count. Holidays won't count. So you have more days to think about it if you have some doubt. Although I wouldn't send an offer to a house that I'm out of. So just say. Let's go further. Oh, this is a timeline. Very good for you guys to see how the process will go into the end. So you start to search. You go into Funda. You like the house. Make your appointment. Go to the house. Do the viewing. And let's say you love it. Time to offer to submit an offer. When you submit an offer, remember if you have an agent, price research, documents review, look at all the documents of the property, do the price research, write the offer together, decide what you need in the offer, decide the value correctly so you don't get any trouble in the future. Then you send your offer with the clause that you think it's important. Always remember about not giving too much hassle to the seller, because if someone comes with nothing, in a good price, or even not so good price, but not much hassle, they might choose that offer. Remember that. If the offer gets accepted, book the appraiser, technical inspection. After that, everything is correct. You can sign the purchase agreement. You still have those 3 days, and then after you sign the purchase agreement, it's time for you to start your mortgage application. So we sign the purchase agreement. The purchase agreement is sent to the notary of your choice, and if you work with us, we're going to take care of that for you, of course, as well, and send to your mortgage advisor or to the bank. And then they have around, I think here we put an average of 4 weeks, but I would say normally it's 5. Normally it's even less for that to have your mortgage approved. It's quite fast, actually, but normally the contracts will come with 5 to 6 weeks timeline after you sign for you to have your mortgage approved. So especially if it's on like summer holidays, it might take a little bit longer because everybody's on holiday, Christmas holidays, those kind of things. It might take a bit longer. So we put an average of 4 weeks to have everything done. So when your mortgage is approved, all the papers will be sent to the notary, and the notary will start to do the final note, the statement of completion. So what is that? Remember those 3 to 5% we talked about it? So that's going to be in that last invoice. So that means you're going to have to pay the notary a few days before you go into the house, you're going to the notary and have the keys of the house. So let's say a week before or so, you get your keys. Right, you're going to get your keys on the 1st of March, for example, which means that on around 24, 22nd, 20th of February, you're going to pay in the final note. And the notary will send that money to all the people, to us, to the agent, to the mortgage advisor, to the bank, to whatever. They're going to send everything that they have. They do all the payments. Before you go into the notary, you go into the house. You're going to the house with your agent, with your selling agent as well. And most of the time with the owner of the house, the previous owner, and you go in to do a last inspection. The house has to be in the same state as it was when you saw it at viewing for the first time. So once the last inspection is done, it can take, I believe, maximum of 45 minutes. We never had that many troubles, almost nothing actually. It's supposed to be quite good. That's also the time where you can, maybe you bought some furniture from the sellers or those kind of things. So that's the time you also check that. So you can check that. And then after that, you go to the notary, transfer deed, mortgage deed, the translator will be there. And that's when your process ends. Then you become officially the owner of the house. So, and then after that, that's actually, that's a good information. A lot of people don't know that, maybe you do, but I see a lot of my clients when they come for intakes, they believe they have to pay things when the offer gets accepted. So you don't. You pay before a little bit, a few days, a week before you go to the notary to get your keys. And that's actually when you become the owner. And that's actually when you start to pay your mortgage. So you don't pay, let's say you got an offer accepted now in November and you're going to move in April. You only start to pay the mortgage in April. So that's how it goes with the mortgage in the Netherlands. And then you have about, after you get your keys, you have about, I would say 2 months. It's a lot. So let's keep it at 1 month, 1.5 max for liability. What it means is that you move to a house, for example, that all the documents were great. Though nobody was telling anything about the roof, you did the inspection. Inspection was great as well, the technical inspection. And then you move in and the next day there's water coming everywhere. So that's not possible, that you already messed up the house, right? So so that's the time when you can talk to the sellers and see the possibility of them fixing that, or see what's going on and try to make them the ones responsible to fix that for you. So that's why we call end of liability, because you also have to be aware that you are buying a house that someone else already lived. So things will happen. But of course, if they happen right away when you move in, that's not normal, right? So that's why we call end of liabilities. Be aware, it's a very gray zone. You have sellers and sellers, I would say, right? So that's I will leave to that, but that's how it works. Okay, so just a little introduction of what we do. We have 3 types of packages. You're going to read that afterwards, so feel free to talk about that. Yeah, and just for you to understand what we do and how can we help you. I hope you understand that. And that's the Q&A. That's time for my colleague Rick to come in. If you have questions, if you still have, I see that there are a few questions in the chat, so I believe you'll probably answer everything.
Yeah, no, actually there was only one, so I think you did a
Okay.
very good job, and I think everything was clear. I see one coming in.
Oh, there you go.
What documents are required to put in an offer?
What documents are required? Well, there are no documents required really. To send an offer, you don't have any documents required. But of course, when you send an offer, I would very much advise you to already have spoken with the bank or with a mortgage advisor, so they can see if you need a mortgage, of course, right? So then they can see everything you need, that everything will be prepared when you sign the purchase agreement. Because after you send an offer, normally the other day you're going to have an answer if it's approved or not. So which means that you're going to have about 2 weeks max, 1.5 week max to sign the purchase agreement. So once you sign, you already need to start your mortgage process. And I know some companies take a long time to send payslippers or whatever documents the mortgage advisor needs. So be aware of that. You don't need nothing to send a mortgage, but to send an offer. But at the same time, I very much advise you to have everything already checked by the mortgage advisor or the bank in order, and then you send an offer, and then your process will go much smoothly.
All right, thank you. Next question, also mortgage related. Is a foreign income accepted for a Dutch mortgage?
It depends. Yes, it can be, and it might not be. So it depends on the country, it depends on the company, it depends on the income. I can't guarantee you anything. Of course, I'm not a mortgage advisor. If you don't have a mortgage advisor yet, and you need some names, we do work with a lot of people. So drop me an email and I can give you some names where you can have your questions answered. You can do an intake, they do it for free, the same way we do it. And then you can have specific questions answered. But regarding, we do know a lot of about it, of course, but we're not mortgage advisors. But regarding incomes from other countries, yes, it's possible, and no, it's not possible, because I have cases that were with my clients that were just okay, and then depend on the country and depends on the law. Regarding the law from that specific country with the Netherlands, it might not be possible. So that's why you need to check. But yeah, sometimes it is possible indeed.
Thank you. Then next question, is it possible to purchase a property before you actually arrive in the Netherlands?
Well, if you need do you need a mortgage? If you need a mortgage, no, because unless you already have a BSN number, because you do need to have a BSN number, that's a social security number, to be able to purchase a property. But if you're buying a property in cash, no, you don't. Then it's okay. But if you need the mortgage, you need to have a BSN number.
All right, thank you. Then another question regarding the mortgage. Is it possible to get a mortgage?
May I just come back to the question, the question before that? Sure. Because if you buy a house and you are abroad, it might be that the notary relates that purchase as buy to let, which means that instead of paying 2% transfer taxes, you're going to have to pay 8% transfer taxes. So there are no exemptions to that. So if you buy a house and you're abroad and you're not going to live in the house, you're not going to register in the house for a while, it might be that the notary take that as a buy to let, which means that you're going to have to pay 8% transfer taxes. So that's something you need to check the mortgage advisor and with the notary to see the possibilities, because yeah, that was it.
Yeah, no, important. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
The next question, is it possible to get a mortgage between or with 3 people?
Yes, it is. I already had a client. They were 3 friends and they bought a house and 3 people. Yeah, it was a big house and it is possible. Well, they were cousins though. Yeah, cousins or friend, or two of them were cousins, and the other one was a friend. But yes, it is possible. Yeah, in the contract that will come that the house is, of course, each one of you gonna have a percentage. Yeah, and they did have different agreements done in the notary in case they don't talk anymore in the future, or I don't know, something goes bad. That no, yeah, they were agreements regarding selling the property if it's necessary in the future. The notary did advise them to do so. But yes, it is possible.
Thank you. Then I see a question if you guys get a copy of the slides. Yes, we
Yes, you
will
do.
share them
A
with you.
copy. Yeah.
Then the question: how difficult is it to purchase a property as a self-employed?
It can be very difficult, and it can be not difficult at all. It depends how long you've been self-employed, and how much you can prove as income. So I have to be honest, they do require more documents than just a person that has a contract with a company that's not self-employed. They do require much more documents, but the process is the same. It's just the documents that are different, and it might be that your budgets change because of that. So you do have, if I'm not mistaken, you do need to have, if you open a company in the Netherlands, you do need to have at least one, I believe it was the last time I did have a client like that. I believe they asked like 2 years of the whole income of the company to be able to tell them. And of course, the plans for the future and those kind of things to be able to tell him about the budget. But yes, it is possible. It's just a little bit more complicated than a non-self-employed. So same question, same answer. A mortgage advisor would be the best person to talk to. And I could send you, if you send me an email, I could send you a name of a person who actually did a self-employed purchase, and I did the purchase, but the mortgage for a client who was self-employed, and he might be able to advise you better on that.
Thank you. Then again, someone asked if they can have a meeting with us. Yes, feel free to schedule an intake with us.
Yes, at the end of the presentation, you're going to have a click on a link on your email that you're probably going to receive with, I don't think tonight, but I believe tomorrow, with this presentation and with the recording of the presentation as well. And there's going to be a link. You just click and you can book an email. If you are looking for Eindhoven, then the intake will be with me.
All right. Then next question: is it possible to transfer the mortgage half through? For example, you have a mortgage of 30 years, but then you sell the house to other people, and then the mortgage will be transferred to the buyer, or how does that work?
No, the mortgage will be paid. You have with the profit that you do selling the house, you pay the mortgage, and then you do a new mortgage. What happens is that, do you remember the rebate of that we talked about it? Why is interest to buy a house? Because you get a rebate on the interest rates when you buy it on the monthly payments. So if you buy a house you only get the rebate once. So what it means, like if your first mortgage is 30 years, and then let's say you lived in the house for 5, and then you sell the house, it means that your next mortgage, although it's going to be for more 30 years, only going to have the rebate for 25. So that's how it works. But you do have to pay your mortgage. You can't transfer. That would be great, wouldn't be? I could buy a house now and have like a low interest rate. But no, it's not possible, unfortunately. No, you sell the house, you pay the mortgage, the house is mortgage free, because that's how it has to be delivered to the sellers as well. And then you do a new process, a new mortgage. That's how it works.
Thank you. Then a question based on your experience. So what is actually the most difficult part in the entire process? Is it the mortgage? Is it finding the right property?
To be honest, I don't think the mortgage is the difficult part. The Netherlands is quite easy on the mortgage side, although the past few months I see that the banks have changed the way of looking at your documents, for example. They are being a bit more careful, but still, a lot of people are getting mortgage. I think is the finding the right property, because I do have clients that are, I don't want to say desperate, but they want to buy something. And then they ended up, for example, sending offers to everything that they see, and then suddenly they get an offer accepted, and then they go like, oh, I'm like, yeah, and they were like, but I don't even like the house that much. So I find that very difficult. No, don't send offers for the houses that you think you're going to like in the future, or that you think is going to be a good house for you to live, don't think. If you like the house, send an offer. Otherwise, don't. So I think that's more difficult because there are not many houses in the market, and that makes even more difficult because sometimes people just accepted what is there. And I understand in a way because the rent is really expensive, and especially for Eindhoven, such a small city compared to Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Utrecht, and we pay the same amount, so which is ridiculous. And I understand that, but then imagine if you have to live in that house for like 5 years and not even liking the neighborhood or the house. I find that very difficult. So yeah.
All right, thank you. That's clear. Then we have our final question. Does having a mortgage in another country already affect getting a mortgage in the Netherlands?
It might, and it might not be any problem at all. It depends on the country. If I know about two, three, I'll give you just one or two examples. If it's from Italy, it will, because the Netherlands do request the the Italian banks a specific document say about your financial there. So it will. If you have a mortgage there and you don't have enough, the Dutch bank thinks that is too much already having a mortgage there and buy another one here. Depends on the budget, of course. They might force you to sell the house there to be able to buy something here. Otherwise, they won't approve the mortgage. But many countries, they don't check at all. So it depends where you're from. It depends not where you're from. Depends the agreement that the Netherlands has with the country where you're from. So that's another question for the mortgage advisor if you are specific. Yeah, that's you have to check the agreement between your country and the Netherlands, and that's a mortgage advisor can tell you about that.
All right. Then next question: if you find a property on Funda, what is the procedure to get the market value?
You need to have an agent because we can do the market value for you. I'm sorry, I know maybe that's not what you want to hear, but yeah, that's there are a few documents on the internet that you can buy it. They are quite expensive that you can buy it and try to do some kind of calculation, but I'm not sure how if you know how to do that. But yeah, that will be the only advice I can do it. Just call us, we can help you.
All right, then another question about the market value. So when will you get to know the market value based on the timeline?
On the time, as long as you go, once you go to the viewing, and after an hour or so, you let, for example, if in our case, in our company, you let us know right away that I love this house. I want to send an offer. We start right away with market value and the property documents review. And then within a few hours, maximum 24 hours, we send everything for you. And then you know, and then we can already discuss about writing the offer. But we do have we had cases before, right, Rick, that the people went in the house in the morning and then 2 o'clock, they need to send an offer because it was the deadline. And then in half an hour, we had to have everything done.
Yeah,
and that's also possible. Be nice, give us a few hours, but that happens before. But just so you know, as fast as we can, we're going to do it because sometimes you have deadlines or sometimes I have too many offers or too many viewings. So we need to be fast for you to get the house.
All right. And then if you do the price research, how would you know that the valuation of the appraiser will be the same?
That's our secret. I can't say that. Then you have to become a client. So I'm sorry.
All right. Let me see. Based on your opinion, would it be a good time to buy a house since the market is changing at the moment?
I was waiting for that question though. Look, the interest rates are higher than they were before. They are indeed. But one thing you have to understand, they would never be that low for so long. That was just like a period. And that's what people are not understanding. Nobody expected that the interest rate would be 1.9 for more 5 years, really. There were no way that would happen because there are not enough houses, and that just made the market even more crazy. And having a marketing growing 17-20% a year in a price, this is insane. So they couldn't keep up with that. So it is a good time to buy. Well, as I said before, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, the interest rates were 8%. So now it's around what, 4, 3.9, 4.2. So yeah, I believe it is, especially, but get this, especially because the rent is really expensive. But if you are thinking about it, just be in the Netherlands for the next 2 years, I would say, think about it. Maybe buying is not what you should do. But if you are thinking stay here for the next 3 to 5 years, for example, at least, Definitely, because we see is the marketing getting like slowly in track, not going like this how it was. Well, like it was like this before, so now it's going just a little bit and it's stabilizing a little bit. So what it means that we don't expect that the market going down like in 2009, for example, that the price went like completely down within the whole world, right? So we don't expect that to happen. So if you're planning to stay here for more than 3 to 5 years or more than 5 years, I would say yes, just buy it already, because you're gonna pay, I don't know, 1,500-1,700 a month as a rent, and you might even pay the same thing for your house, but then it's yours, and then in 5 or 10 years you sell it. That's equity, right? So that's to be honest, yes, I do believe it, although it might not be the interest rate you want it to be.
All right. Then two more questions. The first one, are there any laws in the Netherlands that prevent owners to do some reconstruction works by themselves?
No, not really. No. What the laws, there are a lot of laws regarding renovation. But not that you cannot do by yourself. But if you have to do major things, for example, we extended a very big part of the house. So for that, we needed to send to the city hall drawings from an engineer. That was mandatory. So if you're not an engineer and you want to do that, the city hall will say no, because they need a drawing from an engineer. But who is going to make that? That's not their problem. So that's the thing. You just have to think about it. And for example, different houses that in different neighborhoods have different regulations. That's something you have to think about it. For example, the front of my house, I can't change it whatsoever. It's in my transfer deed. I can never, ever, ever change, because it's a neighborhood. It was a Jewish neighborhood in the past during the Second World War. There was a lot of people that went to the concentration camps. So we can't change the front. We can change the back. There are rules, of course. I think it was maximum 4 meters or those kind of things, but we can change the back. So you have, but not about doing yourself. No, you can do everything by yourself, and good that you can.
The only thing you're not allowed to do by yourself is asbestos.
Oh
So
yes, that's not allowed.
Then you need to hire a professional.
Then you need to inform the city hall. We had in my house as well. You need to inform the city hall, and then they will tell the right way to remove it, where to take it, and how to do it, and everything, and send people if it's necessary. So that you have to inform them.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Apart from that, no, totally agree.
Yeah.
Then the final question, and I think it's a nice one to end with, about the overbidding. So, what is your experience in the current market? Is it happening?
No, it's not happening that much how it was before. However, if the house is you know what I see in my intakes, that I have a lot of expats that come to me and say like they want a house that they don't have even to paint the walls. They don't want to do anything regarding renovation. So painting a wall, it's not even a possibility. That house, you might have overbidding, because a lot of people have the same thinking, and when they don't want to do anything. But remember, overbidding can be something on funda, that you are just overbidding funda value. But you know that example, 375 or 395, and then that was funda price. Market value for 415. So if you paid 415, there's no overbid whatsoever, because funda doesn't count anymore when you know the market value. So that's the thing. When you overbidding the market value, that's the problem. I think it's time to stop and really see if it's worth it. But if it's a very, very, very new house that you don't have to do basically nothing to move in, you might still have people overbidding. But when it's a house that has to do some work already, change here, things in there, it's not happening that often anymore. It also has to do with location, right? So if you want to live in the city center, competition is a bit bigger. If you want to live, for example, in Eindhoven next to the international school, competition is a bit more. It might happen, but it's not happening like it was before. Again, market value. So if you have market value, you overbid funda value, but you still in the market value, you're not overbidding whatsoever. And that's the important part.
All right. That was very clear.
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. I think that's it. There's no more questions.
Okay, so thank you. Oh, did something pop up? One thing popped up in my
yeah, one more question. No, thanks again. So no question.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here with us. Again, you're going to receive this presentation, the link to the recording as well. Our emails are going to be there. Please send an email if you need any information. If you send an email tomorrow, we probably won't answer, only on Monday, because we do have a company event tomorrow. And we're going to be only on the phone, but on the computer. But if it's urgent, you can always call us. You're going to see our numbers. But yeah, just to explain a little bit, feel free to get in touch. If you forgot to ask anything, yeah, just send an email and we'll be able to help you out. Thank you so much, Rick, for being here with me. Yeah,
you're welcome.
I see you tomorrow.
Good luck with the Brazil game tonight.
Oh, I know. Portugal is playing now, right? So sorry, guys. But thank you. Yes. Bye, guys. Have a nice evening.
Bye-bye.